Wow, hard to believe it's just 4 weeks left in the season. So now it's time for my week 14 picks of the 2016 NFL season. But first, last week, I did slightly better 9-6, but what's one loss better make? And of course, my overall went up a little bit to 596, but again, that's not really saying that much. So hopefully, with 4 weeks left in the season, I can finally turn around and get over 600 again. And of course, here's the playoff bracket, which is 4 weeks left. In the AFC would be the Patriots and Raiders still with the byes, and the Broncos going to the Ravens, and the Chiefs going to the Texans. In the NFC would be the Cowboys and Seahawks with the byes, and then the Buccaneers finally coming in again to go to the Lions, and the Giants going to the Falcons. And this time, I think I might actually give a game by game what I think would happen. In the AFC, Broncos I think would beat the Ravens, although I'm starting to lean more towards the Ravens the way they've been playing the last bunch of weeks. But the Chiefs would beat the Texans. And then, of course, the Patriots would beat the Broncos. And I'm thinking an upset, the Chiefs would probably beat the Raiders since they've had their number the last bunch of years, especially earlier this year. And then the Patriots would beat the Chiefs in the AFC in the championship. And then the NFC side, the Lions would beat the Buccaneers. The Falcons would beat the Giants, although by barely. I think the Giants still might have a shot to win that. But right now, I think the Falcons would get it. The Cowboys beat the Falcons. The Seahawks beat the Lions. In the NFC Championship, the Cowboys beat the Seahawks. And the Super Bowl, the Patriots beat the Cowboys. First up, we get to the Thursday night game that nobody can't wait for. And that's the Raiders going to the Chiefs. And this is the AFC West on the line. Whoever wins this will take the lead. And of course, when you look at the history, the Raiders have not beaten the Chiefs in Arrowhead since 2012. And I think the Chiefs are on a 4-game winning streak against them overall. I mean, they swept them last year. They destroyed them there earlier this year. And they've historically, the last bunch of years, have done pretty good against the Raiders when they host them. And of course, since the Raiders lost to them pretty badly earlier this year at home, I think that'll be the case tonight as well, as the Chiefs beat the Raiders 27-14. But at the same time, you got to remember, Raiders did almost pull off an upset against them last year when they had nothing to play for anymore. So who knows, maybe the Raiders would pull off that upset and get revenge. And we get to the Sunday 1 p.m. game, starting up with the Steelers going to the Bills for the first time since 2010. And, oh boy, of course that Bills team is still finally starting to struggle, especially with Tyrod Taylor. Really not doing good whatsoever at the moment. But of course, one thing the Bills can benefit against the Steelers is historically when they host the Steelers, they've done pretty well. Remember last time they hosted them in 2010? They start off 0-8. Remember they finished 4-12. The Steelers went all the way to the Super Bowl, and the Steelers made it all the way to overtime. And I think that's right. One of the receivers caught the ball but dropped it in the end zone for the game winner in overtime before Steelers went to win it by a field goal. So even though the Steelers were once good before, the Bills were shitty. The Bills play hard against the Steelers when they host them. And I think Bills will win this 22-16, not only because of the history, but this is a game set up perfectly for the Steelers to lose when they should probably win, as they've done historically. And it's the Chargers going to the Panthers for the first time since 2004. And I think if the Panthers lose this, and the Redskins, the Buccaneers, or someone else, I believe, they will be eliminated. Same goes for Chargers too. If they lose, or even just the Broncos winning, they're officially eliminated. So ain't that just something? But of course, the Chargers are untrustable, and the Panthers defense is so god awful. But the Panthers are at home, so I think they would have the edge 31-24. Then it's the Bengals going to the Browns, and oh boy, just 4 games left for the Browns to finally get a win before they match the 2008 Lions. And yay for the Bengals, they destroyed the Eagles last week, but guess what? You lose to the Browns, or the Broncos win, and I think maybe even the Dolphins win, then you're eliminated. So you better get lucky and win out the next last 4 weeks to have any shot making the playoffs, but then by then it'll probably be too late. But of course, historically, when they go to the Browns, it's not good. Last year when they beat the Browns, that was the first time they beat the Browns in Cleveland since 2011. Now, the Browns have won, I think it was 3 straight or something like that against the Bengals. And most of those wins were like pretty convincing margins too. It wasn't like very close. No, the Browns had their number against them in those games, and I think that is going to be the case. I've picked like the Browns to win like the last like 3 straight games or something like that, because historically they've done good against those teams, and those teams usually fuck up on games they should win when they end up losing. And this is probably the last opportunity. I would probably pick the Browns to win any game, because after this they got to go to the Bills, host the Chargers, and go to the Steelers. So this is the last chance, Browns. If you want to win a game, you got to win this one. And I think you just barely will, 21-17. But of course, you're the shitty Browns. You've proved me wrong 3 times so far. I've picked you the last couple weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised either if the Bengals beat your ass. Then it's the Bears going to the Lions, and oh boy, the Lions managed to prove themselves pretty well against the Saints. They managed to show that last year was not a fluke, and they beat them even better probably somewhat this year. But of course, now they got to host the Bears, and although historically have won against the Bears when they host them, I think they haven't lost to the Bears at home since 2012. They won 3 in a row, but last year, that went right down to the wire. Went overtime, for crying out loud. Now the Lions at the moment seem to be on a good roll at the moment, and I think the Lions would win it 34-14. And then once again, every single year, it's come down to this. The Texans going to the Colts. So yay, the Texans. They beat the Colts for the first time ever in Indianapolis last year. It took 13 years. But, of course, you're such a dog shit team. You were 6-3 a couple weeks ago. Now you're 6-6. And a freeway tie with the Colts and Titans, for crying out loud. And of course, yeah, you beat the Colts last year because they were so shitty on offense at home. And of course, remember, you've lost 12 in a row against them when they went to Indianapolis. And of course, that's going to happen again this year. I mean, Osweiler's played a little bit better the last couple weeks, but you really think their offense is going to do well against the Colts, whose defense, for some reason, plays a lot better when they host the Texans for some reason? No. The Colts will crush you 27-17. And it's the Vikings going to the Jaguars for the first time since 2008. And I think if the Lions win and the Vikings lose, the Vikings would be officially eliminated from winning the NFC North. They would have to get in by a wild card, which at this point, I mean, they have the tiebreakers over the Giants. And that's right, the Redskins beat them, but they still have a shot to make the playoffs, but their chances are running out. And of course, the Jaguars shitty. I think they've lost like 7 in a row now or something like that. I probably would say the Jaguars might be able to win it, but of course, they've been proving me wrong the entire year when I've picked them a lot of times. And of course, so I think the Vikings might just be able to pull it off 24-17, but I wouldn't be surprised either if the Jaguars win it. It's the Cardinals going to the Dolphins for the first time since 2004. Jeez, thanks to that schedule change. And of course, the Dolphins, they finally showed themselves for what they were after Ravens crushed them. Oh my god, that was so funny to watch that. And of course, the Cardinals, oh yeah, they beat the Redskins in a close one. If the Dolphins want any shot to beat, the Cardinals want any shot to beat the Dolphins, they need to rely on David Johnson to run against that terrible. I think the Dolphins have the worst run defense in the league at the moment, or definitely top 5, because I checked the stats earlier before I made my picks, and rely less on Palmer so he don't throw so many picks. But of course, knowing the Cardinals, they probably ain't going to do that. And the Dolphins, I think, will win at 28-17. And I think maybe knock the Cardinals out of the playoff contention, depending on what happens with the other teams. And it's the Redskins going to the Eagles. I mean, now the Eagles finally are starting to shit the bed. They've lost 3 in a row, and the last 2 losses, they've bbeen shitty. But overall, they've still been a pretty solid team compared to last year when they were god-awful. And the Redskins, yeah, they've lost 2 in a row, but both of them were like close, hard-fought losses, so it's not like they shit the bed on them against the Cowboys and Cardinals. And of course, I still think they might have a shot to make the playoffs with that 3-game winning streak to end the year. But right now, no, you're not gonna probably be able to beat the Eagles. The Eagles, I think, would win 38-31. Eagles do lose, I think they'll be officially eliminated for the playoffs, or be very close, depending on, because if the Giants win, they can't get the 5th seed, and then depending on the Buccaneers won't have the tiebreaker yet, but the Redskins might be getting closer to getting it, so Eagles might be officially eliminated if they lose. And up is the Broncos going to the Titans for the first time since 2011. And oh boy, the Titans, I've told everyone for pretty much the entire year, don't underestimate them, and people have been underestimating them for the entire year so far. 6-6, they've doubled their win total, not only from last year, they've won more games so far this year than the last 2 years combined. And of course, Mariota's finally starting to look like a franchise quarterback. DeMarco Murray is getting him he's got over 1,000 yards. I think he's second in the league in yards on the ground. And that defense is still doing a pretty solid job. And of course, that Broncos offense, although I still overall think a lot better, they still are shitty. So I think the Titans would pull it off 28-20 and be in a tie with the Colts for the lead in the AFC South. The only thing is I mentioned about the AFC South, I think all of them are going to finish 8-8, but I think overall the Titans would probably have I think the Texans might have the tiebreaker because of the better division record, but I think they got 3 games left in the AFC South to play, so who knows, maybe the Texans would lose that lead. But the Titans would definitely be the best team to play in the playoffs from the AFC South. Then up is the 4 p.m. game, starting with the Jets going to the 49ers for the first time since 2008. And of course, the Jets proved me horrendously wrong on Monday night when they hosted the Colts. I guess that dominant victory last year was just a fluke against them. And of course, the 49ers, man, they blew a big opportunity to beat the Bears after they just beat them last year by a close margin. They got crushed. But of course, remember, when the 49ers are at home, they're a much, much, much better team. I mean, even though I think they have like 1-5 or something like that, or something terrible. But they definitely play a much harder fought game. Remember, they destroyed the Rams earlier. They only lost by 7 points against the Cowboys, who have the #1 record in the league right now, and they were right there with them throughout the entire year. The Patriots, they beat them. They didn't lose to them by that much. The 49ers are just a much better team when they host teams for some reason, and I think that's going to translate to a win this week, as they will win 27-21. But of course, they're dog shit, we know that, so I wouldn't be surprised either if the Jets somehow pull it off. And then it's the Seahawks going to the Packers. Oh boy, remember that destruction the Packers gave them last year? And oh boy, of course, that Seahawks team is still very inconsistent, especially on offense. And I think that is going to happen again this year, as the Packers would win on 27-20 and be right back with a winning record. If the Seahawks did beat the Packers and the Cardinals lose, and the Seahawks would win the NFC West too. So you better hope the Dolphins beat the Cardinals and you win against the Packers, Seahawks fans. And it's the Falcons going to the Rams for the first time since 2010, I believe. And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Falcons the last team the Rams played against when they were the previous LA Rams in 1994? I gotta look that up. But of course, the Falcons blew that game against the Chiefs. Probably should have done the extra point instead of the 2-pointer. And of course, the Rams fucking got destroyed by the Patriots like we all accurately predicted. And of course, I still can't believe this. How the fuck would they re-sign Jeff Fisher for 2 years? Oh, I feel bad for you, Rams fans. Nothing gets right for you. No wonder you haven't been to the playoffs since 2004. I would probably say the Rams would probably win it because I think they've historically done better against the Falcons when they host them. And of course, the Falcons are also inconsistent. One of the best offenses in the league, but they're also one of the worst defenses. Yeah, worst defense in the league. And I think they have the worst pass defense in the league too. They have even a worse pass defense than the Saints, for fuck's sake, man. And they always get run up against them. But I'll say the Falcons will win it 32-19. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams somehow pull it off. And it's the Saints going to the Buccaneers. And oh boy, I told you all, don't underestimate the Buccaneers. Yeah, they struggled at the beginning of the year, but now they've won 4 in a row. And if the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs for the first time since 2007. And of course, this is perfect for them since they got to host the Saints, who they've historically, well, I wouldn't say they've historically beaten them. It's going like back and forth, I believe. But overall, they played very, very, very good this entire decade so far when they host the Saints. And I think that will translate to a win this week, as they will win 27-23. And it's the Sunday night game that I shit on the entire in my schedule reaction. But of course, now it has some meaning as the Cowboys go to the Giants. And if the Cowboys beat the Giants, they clinch first, not only the NFC East, but first round bye. And if they win and the Seahawks lose, they clinch everything. Man, it's been a since 2007 since they've had first round bye and home field advantage, and they could just wrap it up this year. I mean, with tonight, went down Sunday with a win. But of course, historically, the Giants have done much better against the Cowboys when they host them. I mean, they did beat them pretty good last year. So I think the Giants will win at 31-28. And considering the fact that the Giants still remain the only team to beat the Cowboys. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys somehow pulled it off. But I'm siding with the Giants on this one. And we get to the one Monday night game, and probably one of the biggest games on primetime games of the year that I was a very big risky move, but thankfully it's turned out right this year. And that's the Ravens going to the Patriots for the first time since 2010. Oh boy, the Ravens defense has resurged back this time, especially on the run. But because they're going to need that to stop LeGarrette Blount, because that's the one thing Bill Belichick's done over the years. In a game where they don't need Brady as much, rely on LeGarrette Blount to take the pressure off him. And unfortunately, of course, has LeGarrette Blount done good against run defenses? I probably should look that up. Defense has done a pretty good job over the years maintaining Brady. But of course, the main problem with the Ravens is going to be that offense. All the Patriots got to do is get a shit ton of pressure on Flacco, and they would have it wrapped up. But I think the Patriots overall will win at 27. But if this is going to be the Ravens of like the last couple of years, this is going to go right down to the wire, just like the playoff games 2 years ago. So you got to expect either it's going to be a Patriots blowout or a very close Patriots win, or maybe even a very close Ravens win. But I can't wait for Monday night. Those are the picks. Hopefully for week 14, I'll finally get over 10 wins again, because I can't wait for this week. I can't wait for Raiders at Chiefs tonight. I can't wait for Cowboys at Giants on Sunday night. And I can't wait for Ravens at Patriots